Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. Sangeeti, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. But after your introduction, I'm really confused now. For a very simple fact that you have not left anything to me. Given the fact that there was a very insightful conversation which our panelists just had about 5 minutes back, where we were talking about the opportunity in the startup vertical, the role of a technology, the role of an innovation. There are some very critical business challenges and the issues related to HR, where we were talking about the employee retention, employee attrition, such fundamental issues. I was just really thinking that given us such a short time frame, where you have one of the best brilliant mind and the dynamic entrepreneurs in the room, can you really do a justice to any sort of content in 15-20 minutes? Answer is maybe yes or may not be. And probably having a conversation like this may not require much of the content to deliver afterwards. So what I will do is probably in next 15-20 minutes, whatever the 4 verticals what you see here, that how HP is going to make a difference in the growth journey of the startup verticals in the country, that probably we'll try to share. So what we are talking about is the growth. How HP can really partner to startup vertical in India market in their growth journey. What we are talking about is the productivity. How do we really ensure that your employees are absolutely productive and more efficient in whatever the work they do, whether it's a work from home or work from anywhere. What we are talking about is the collaborations. Now you are working in the hybrid work environment where people are not talking about only the work from office. We are talking about the work from home and work from anywhere. Then you need a devices in the technology which is making sure that there is a seamless collaboration. And the lastly is the technology. What is the real meaning of a technology? If I have to really think when I was sitting there in behind as an audience, what really we can do, there was a very, very interesting chat and the couple of conversations what you had with Mr. Dinesh. The technology what we are going to share that will help you to take to the India market. So whether you are a buyer, whether you are a seller, while you have a best of the connectivity available, best of the information available, you would need devices in any form to take your business to the next level. So in next 15-20 minutes, we will give you some of the insight which will definitely give you a perspective in terms of what's happening in the startup ecosystem currently, how we look at on a microeconomic level that how the technology trend will look like, what are the opportunities available, and how HP is going to contribute in the growth journey of the startup ecosystem. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity today. Very interesting chart, and I think that's where we have kick-started this evening today. Very, very interesting conversation around the funding. Let me give you a bit of context here. After the US and China, the India stands today as the third largest economy in the world. Third largest economy in the world. Third largest from a startup perspective. So what has really happened that despite of all the challenges what we had in 2022, the headwind what we had post-pandemic, the startup has created 21 unicorns in India, which is a massive, massive delivery in terms of creating a unicorns. Now look at from a funding perspective, and why do we say that India has got a biggest startup vertical after the US and China? There are total 84,000 recognized startups in India who are operating in 56 different verticals. When we are talking about the 56 verticals or in a sector, the dominant ones are the IT services, professional and the commercial services, education, fintech, agriculture, and foods and beverages. Now, what does it really mean? If you look at, there is an aberration in 2021 in terms of the startup funding raise. And this is primarily, it was accelerated by the COVID-19 pandemic, which was a very unfortunate event which has happened in the human life. But what really happened because of the COVID-19, there was a need of a product and services which can really help to solve some of the larger business issues in the COVID-19 pandemic area, and hence to solve some of these larger issues, which is how do you really go digital and continue to maintain your business continuity. The India saw the massive surge in the funding in 2021. Today, if you look at the largest recognized startup in the top 5 states in the India are Delhi, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Gujarat and the Uttar Pradesh. Very interestingly, just 2 years before in 2020, where India has managed to raise about $12 billion funding, which is just the half of the funding what we have raised in 2022. Very interesting conversation whether there is an venture in the funding, the way it is available. Maybe this is just in a beginning, and probably we'll share you some of the research report and the data point which is available in 2023 and beyond. We were also talking about how the startup ecosystem is creating a valuation and how the vertical valuation will look like. So just to give a perspective, that by 2025, we further poised to gain a further momentum, which means we are looking at the market valuation will go at least threefold than what we are today. So that's a one silver lining what we have. And secondly, we are also expecting a substantial increase in the unicorns what we have created today. I don't know how many of you are aware that while we have created 21 unicorns in 2022, by mid of 2022, in a range of about May, June 2022, the startup unicorn has gone as high as 105 startups in India, and it has gone down to 84 startups in 2022, primarily because of the acquisition, and a lot of companies had decided to go public, and that was the reason. So the way we are looking at the valuation is likely to go by at least threefold in 2025, and again, there is a substantial increase we foresee in the unicorns what we have created in India so far. So very interestingly, when we are looking at the data in terms of how we are progressing, and you cannot have a testimony better than this when you are saying that you are the fastest growing economy in the world, and secondly, as a startup vertical, you are the third largest startup verticals after US and China. But what is the evaluation? Look at why the India is at a sweet straight point. The biggest advantage what India has today, that India as in a country, we are a consumption-driven economy. What is really happening, as the India continue to grow from an economy perspective, our ability to purchase, our ability to consume will significantly go up. As per the research data which is available, by 2030, every household, 1 out of 2, will be either in a bracket of higher income or the middle income, which means further strengthening our ability to consume the product and the services which we are creating in the India market. So one is the rising economy, the consumption economy. The second biggest advantage what you have is a human talent pool. The third, adoption of a smartphone. The fourth, the adoption of a UPI digital payment services what we have seen. And these are some of the massive advantage comparatively which India has got today, and which gives us a confidence the kind of a journey what we have seen. The time ahead is going to be a much better than what we are witnessing today. The third, the further disruption which has happened is primarily because of the adoption of a smartphone, UPI digital payment, and the cheapest internet connectivity which we have in India today. The ability to create a digital product and reach out to the consumer has become more easy for us. The digital solutions, because of the adoption of a mobile, adoption of a technology, cheaper connectivity, is really helping us to build a low-cost solution in the market, which is another reason that we see this vertical is going to promising further as we move forward. And the last, very importantly, what is going to drive the growth? I think Dinesh sir was making a very interesting point that if I would have had an opportunity to come early 10 years before, probably we would have done a lot of things on the AI. I think this is just a starting point. The technology like a blockchain, technology like an artificial intelligence, technology like a machine learning, technology like an IoT, these are the technology which are the futuristic technology where a lot of startups will create a disruption because of the innovation which we are going to bring because of the new use cases and the technology what we have. Very important question. I think somebody has asked the question from this table that whether it's an HP or an India Mart, if I have heard correctly, are going to consume the services what we want to sell. I think somebody has asked from this table, right, on the software side. Now look, it's a very interesting answer to that question only. The large companies have realized, even like an HP, that you simply cannot do everything on your own, right? You cannot be rely on the internally generated, the knowledge what we have today, and hence building everything is not possible. If you have to really improve your innovativeness and the effectiveness in the market, you have to rely on the startup ecosystem. And what does it really mean? That the large enterprises are going to look at some sort of an investment, they are going to look at an acquisition, and either they will have a strategic partnership in a form of acquisition, which will open up an opportunity for the startup organization like yours. One very recent example, everybody has heard that HCL Group has acquired a majority stake in one of the edtech firms. So which probably gives an answer to the question what you have, that how do you really look at the product and the services which you are building in. And just to give an answer, if the product and services is really helping somebody to innovate their own solution to the customer or is helping some of the larger issues which they have, you will definitely see the large enterprises are willing to invest or they are willing to acquire the majority of the stake. And this trend is just a beginning. You will see this momentum will continue. India IT spend from a 2023 perspective seems to be a very muted. So what we are looking at from a devices perspective, the market is going to shrink by about 1.2%. But 1.2% after the CAGR growth of about 30% in a row post-pandemic. We all know that post-COVID, there was a sudden surge in the demand, and probably a lot of us would have witnessed that you had one devices before the pandemic, and probably you have a 2 or 3, 4, depends on the number of people you have in your house. That kind of a devices consumption happen either for learn from home or either the work from home, and that has changed the market scale big time in 2020 and 2021. In 2023, what we are realizing right now, there is a weakening in the demand and there is an upgrade opportunity in the marketplace is stabilizing, so which will impact about 1.2% growth. What is the beauty here is that the India market in 2023, the total IT spending as per the Gartner is expected to be about $112 billion. Out of $112 billion, the devices market, which means your desktop, laptop kind of a devices, will have about 42.5% of total share out of the total IT spending which is going to happen in India market. So while our opportunity size is not as high as the market like in the US and Canada, the way we are looking at, but we are growing at a very, very steady pace. And why we are confident this space will continue, the kind of digitization opportunity, the government thrive to become a digital economy, the kind of a manpower what we have, the skilled workforce which we are focusing on right now, and our focus on the startup ecosystem from the government initiative perspective will continue to drive the momentum and the growth opportunity for this vertical. The question is, while we understand that there is a history, the way this market is evolving, and there are enough an opportunity, but is the role of a technology is going to be the same which we have witnessed in the last couple of decades? Answer is no. That every single year there is a new disruption, and probably the one word which many of us are familiar with, and we are not sure in terms of how it's going to impact the industry, which is a ChatGPT. I think Salesh was talking about the ChatGPT a couple of times, right? And we have seen the impact, and a lot of people are unsure in terms of how the ChatGPT kind of an innovation is going to impact the industry. So role of a technology is going to change big time and for time ever. How it's going to change? Look at the role of the trusted operator to the business co-creator. So what we are saying there, when you have a businesses and you have a technology which is entitled, then technology role probably is going to be a primarily focus to create a more value, which is helping the business to grow further. From a service delivery to the value delivery, what we are talking about with the adoption of a cloud, adoption of an IoT, a lot of people are going to focus on delivering the services at a very different level, at a very different fast level. So we are talking about the faster resolution and speeding of an IT delivery, which means the role of a technology is going to completely change. And the very big thing is a cost center to the revenue engine. I think one important conversation which we are having with most of our customers today, and this is the change which we are witnessing right now, that many of the CIOs who are looking at the IT devices purchase as an expenditure, now they are looking at an investment. Why they are looking at an investment? Because if today the technology has to be a role change model and they have to create an innovation, then probably the cost center should look at in a backseat. I'm sure many of you would have heard about the Z by HP and how it is different than the conventional desktops in the laptop that you have. There is a only powerful Z portfolio which is available in the industry today, whether it is a requirement of a 2D computing, 3D computing, there is a requirement of a simulation, there is a requirement of a rendering, visualization, and additive manufacturing. Anything you can think of today, you have the Z portfolio available in the market. The Z portfolio comes in a two different form factor. One is the tower and second is the mobile form factor. And depends on the customer requirement, you can even look at the different screen size, whether it's a 13-inch, 14-inch, 15.6-inch, 17-inch. And on the tower side, you can look at the dedicated graphics is in a range of 4 GB graphics card, 6 GB graphics card. You have a 256 GB memory to a 1 terabyte of memory. You look at a high end of devices hard drive. You decide the applications and you have those solutions available from the Z. Many of the people are not even available that we have solved one of the largest issue what our customers are facing today. That you have somebody is operating from an Chennai, somebody is operating from Hyderabad, you have a person sitting in Delhi, person sitting in Bombay. Imagine a situation that the 4 people are working on the same project, which is a development or design project with the HP Z portfolio and the HP Anywhere solution. The 4 people can work on the same project at the same time. Imagine the kind of a time saving what you can have, imagine the cost saving what you can have, and look at the impact and the experience of an employee where you are not losing your productivity while people are working in a different environment. These are the notebook solutions which is designed as per the customer requirement. You have a 200 series, 400 series, 600 series, 800 and 1000 series and the Dragonfly. A complete portfolio available from an HP. I'm sure a lot of you and probably which I have been hearing from the other forum that there are consumer portfolio available from HP, there are commercial portfolio from an HP, and how it is different than the consumer portfolio. So very simple reason, as I told you, when we understand the business requirement, the devices has to be more secure, the device should be taken care of the 24/7 kind of a productivity requirement, the devices has security features, manageability features, and the product is more reliable. So whether it's a requirement of an entry-level user who is just working on the Internet Explorer and the Microsoft Word and Excel sheet, to somebody who is a complete mobile user who is looking for maybe 12 hours of battery life, a lightweight notebook, high-end devices, good-looking product, you decide on the use case, decide on the budget, and you have the solution available from HP. The post-COVID, the desktop is the form factor which is the fastest growing form factor right now in the market for last 2 quarters. You have the same portfolio from a 200 series to Elite 800 series, which delivers a very basic requirement of the customer and the most value for the customer, which is an 800 series. What does it really give an advantage? That you have the best affordable desktops and you have a desktop which is very unique in design, very unique from a security perspective and the expandability perspective. As you go higher from a 200 series to 800 series, the requirement of a customer's use case will change and you'll have a different solution available from HP. So what we are saying, whether it's a front desk, whether it's a developer, whether it's a mid-range user, basis for use case, you have a customized solution available from an HP side. So with this last slide, given the fact that we have a very limited time in terms of what we are doing, what really we want to do, I can just tell you one thing, that the one big difference which we are trying to make right now, that HP, which people generally knows as a Hewlett-Packard, but maybe whatever the product innovations and the services innovations which we are trying to bring, I think we really want to know ourselves as a happiness in partnership. And that's what something which we want to be in a part of your growth journey. So thank you so much for coming here, giving us a valuable time. It's really extremely pleasure to be part of this discussion.